Hey everybody, what's up? It's Will, and it's another episode of the Willpower Podcast. How's everyone doing today? Hope you're doing well, and if you're not, then I'm really happy that you're here. Today I have a great guest. Her name is Sydney. She is actually from the neck of the woods that I live in, so I thought it'd be a fun little episode to bring in someone who's now local. Originally stemmed from New York, but I'll let her tell her story. So Sydney, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Doing really well. Thank you. So, Sydney, what's your story? Give me a little background about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Sydney. I am 32 years old. I'm sober. I grew up in New York State and I went, great childhood. I actually, grew up with an alcoholic father, which we'll get into probably a little bit later, but alcoholism's always really been in my family. But I grew up a great childhood. I went to school in New York and Manhattan College, which is now Manhattan University. They went and switched the name up on us. It's confusing all of us. I've graduated post. I'm like, what is this? So now Manhattan University, and I worked down in New York for 10 years after graduating. I worked at Major League Baseball in corporate finance. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I got into sales after that because I love to talk and love to talk to people. And I love to solve people's problems, or at least try to.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried doing with sales. And, I let New York get the best of me, but I also let living in New York, it's so fast paced. There's happy hours all the time, especially young in career. And I really took advantage of that. And I started going to happy hours only on Thursdays and then only going out on the weekends. And then my drinking just kind of escalated till every single day. I got married. I was hiding my alcohol all over the place, under beds, in closets. I'd go out to get my nails done and go get a drink. Like nothing didn't require a drink for me. It was just a big excuse. So, and being in New York and being in such close quarters to really anything you want, any of your vices are right around the corner. It slowly started completely controlling my life. And I actually 2 Januaries ago, I left my husband and I was like, I'm going to start going out more and being with my friends. I got a new job during COVID, and then about a year and a half later, things really started opening up. So I went to my first work happy hour. I saw that they were all around my age, late 20s, early 30s. And they were all going out every single night. And I was like, this is where I don't belong on the couch making dinner every night. I belong out in Manhattan, like,
Living it
drinking,
up.
being who I want to be. And I let that completely control me. It just was something the alcoholic mindset is just wanting more, never being satisfied. And I found a group of people I could truly be my alcoholic self in and blend right in, because they were all doing it too. And so I left my husband, moved out into my new apartment. Meanwhile, this is all happening in the matter of like a month.
I was gonna say that's a lot. You're telling me. That's almost like I feel like 30 years of stuff you just told me in a brief amount of time.
And that really is how quickly I think alcoholism can take over your life. It had been in my life. They call it a progressive disease. I had been hiding alcohol for years because I wanted to be able to look like I only needed a glass of wine when I'm out to dinner with my husband and friends. But I also have 4 nips in my bag because 2 glasses of wine isn't enough for me. That's crazy. But I wanted to look the part. And then when I was able to realize that, oh my gosh, I could live this life of drinking that I really want, I made changes so quick your head would spin, and people's heads did spin. My husband's head spun. He had no idea what was going on. I was also a master manipulator. So I'm talking to my family, and just the stories I'm telling my family of why I'm getting out of my marriage, just insane. And they're like, that doesn't really add up. And I'm like, yeah, no, I need to get out. Like, so controlling. I can't really do anything I want. He's trying to like control me and my friends. No, he just wanted his wife to come home on a Wednesday night or at a normal time and not 3 a.m., which what I was doing. And so I moved into my own apartment in March of last year. And my life just fell apart fast. It started with going out with work friends. I say friends because they weren't. I think, when you do drink a lot, how I do, and how when you're an alcoholic, which I do identify as, you surround yourself with people that are doing the same stuff you're doing. So it doesn't stand out. I didn't want to hang out with people that didn't drink. I thought that was the weirdest, craziest thing in the entire world. Don't even come near me. So I immersed myself in that population, and I drank to the point where it was just like every day. At a certain point, I work from home. I wouldn't go into the office, and I was always going into the office, but I wouldn't. I would sit at home. I'd drink to overcome the shame of getting too drunk the night before. It was just a vicious cycle. And then finally, my rent was up, and my parents were like, "You're moving home because you cannot handle this, and we can't live a life like this anymore, not knowing if our daughter's going to wake up in the morning and, no one's down there. You're in New York alone." Um, and so I moved to Newburyport, Massachusetts in March of this year and decided to get sober. It took a couple shots because I wasn't ready. So I had a couple, I started going to AA actually, which I go for the support. I know there's kind of some taboo there, but I was like, I need someone to kind of show me how to do this. And I think I had 2 relapses after two weeks was my timeline. And then April 19th was the last day. I told myself, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I was very intoxicated in front of my niece and nephew. It was my rock bottom. And at that point, I just completely decided to give myself over to my higher power and to just start a sober journey. And it's been the best journey I could have probably ever expected. I had no idea what was to come. It was so scary, but I'm so grateful.
So you mentioned so many things that I was just kind of write things down as you were talking, because you were saying so many things that I could relate to, and so many things that the audience here will completely relate to too. So, but I'm interested in going back to your story. So you were living a normal life pretty much. You had this good job. You were in New York City. What were you doing up to the point where you were noticing that it was becoming uncontrollable to drink?
Yeah. So first of all, I had a buddy that him and I were really close, and we still are close. He's very supportive of my sobriety journey. Him and I would literally any day of the week. We also dabbled in, dry goods to sustain whatever we were able to do in order to go out more. So I was going out, I was drinking, I was using extracurriculars, as they like to call it, just be able to drink more. Because I was like, wow, this is great. I never was into that stuff. I just liked it because I had my tolerance went from here. I mean, I had a high tolerance, but it went from here to here. So we were doing this on a regular basis. It was just like anytime we were drinking, we were also engaging in other activities, and that compounded. And then I just found myself drinking to an excess that I had never drank before. And it was happening Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, I'd be home and in my apartment, I would be like white knuckling it. Cannot drink today. My life is literally getting out of hand. And there's a beautiful thing that I thought at the time. Now I realize it's such a horrible service, delivery alcohol. So I had a liquor store probably like a 2 to 3 minute walk away from my apartment, but I didn't want to leave. So I'd order my tequila to get delivered to me. And I'd be like, I'm only going to have 3 nips tonight. That's all I'm going to do. They get delivered. I drink them. I order more because my inhibitions are gone. I have, zero will at that point. It's all given up to alcohol.
Yeah.
I'd wake up the next morning and I'd be like, how the hell did I get here? One morning I woke up and it was just me the night before and I had a huge cut on my lip. And I'm like, how am I doing this in my own apartment? I am so not safe. And it's just me in my own 4 walls. And I started, going out but I would start going home because I knew that I had to continue drinking, and I didn't want to be around people I wanted to go drink how I wanted to drink in the safety, right, of my own apartment, where I wasn't going to get judged, because I was at the point where even the people that were heavy drinkers that I was hanging out with were probably going to say there's something up with her. And when I tell you, this happened so quickly that I just could not fathom, and I could not come to grips that I was an alcoholic, because I was like, this just has to be because I'm going through, my divorce. I'm just dealing with it. And then it got to the point where I could not have a drink and stop at just one drink. It's impossible for me.
Yeah. Is that something you notice that your family has that issue too, or is it just you?
So my dad's an alcoholic. He's in recovery. So I've been around AA. I've been around alcoholism my entire life. My dad got sober when I was 4. So I wasn't in a home of, my home was a little bit tumultuous and my parents got divorced, but I never really saw it. I just heard about it. And my mom was, I think, scared half to death. So growing up, she'd be like, Sydney, you have alcoholism in your family. So I was so scared of becoming an alcoholic. I was like, I'm not going to become an alcoholic. That's so scary. My mom put the fear of God into me because of being an alcoholic. Wouldn't here I am. But listen, I wouldn't, I'm so grateful that I am at this point in my life. I know I went through everything to be here, but yeah, it's been in my family. And because I don't think I saw the acts of my dad being an alcoholic, I didn't really understand what it was until I was dealing with it. So even when I was dealing with it, I didn't know what it was. I knew there was a thing called alcoholism, but I didn't know what I was doing was alcoholism until I went to my first couple of AA meetings, and I'd hear people's stories and I'd be like, that, and that. I was like, I do all of that. And okay, I think I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, we are so similar. My God. So a ton of things that you just said that I also did. The having nips or just extra alcohol. I was doing that all the time. I mean, I couldn't even go outside to go food shopping with my wife or whatever without pounding alcohol in the car before we would go in, or I would always have stashes around my apartment and everything. And I would always run to it right when she would go into the bathroom or something. I'd just chug it and run back out, right? So that's weird. Interesting that we both were both piling on alcohol when we were out drinking alcohol. I don't know where that comes from, why we're both like that, and there's a lot of people who are similar to that, like us. You were like me. You would go home and get like wasted because that was like the place that you could control. You can control the drinking there, right? Oh my God, I was the same exact way. I wasn't even going out when I was abusing, when I was drinking myself to death. I was not even going out or doing anything. I was just drinking in my room, just ignoring all my problems or all my trauma that I've been building up throughout the years. And I was just slowly numbing myself out to death. It's so different how some people, you're either super outgoing, you're partying it up, right? Or some people, they just bring it home. Okay, so going back to your story. So you're seemingly on paper, your life looks pretty good, right? I mean, everything just seems to be going well. You have a nice job. You're in New York City. It's a dream. And then this alcohol is just coming into your life and it's just ruining everything, it seems like.
It took so much from me. And that was the thing, Will, is that I would go into my office every day after blacking out in my apartment the night before by myself, and I'd get ready in the morning. I'd wake up feeling like complete crap. The shame. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Getting ready was hard because I literally could not look at myself in the mirror. I was depressed, shameful. I was anxiety ridden. But I'd walk into the office and I'd be like, "Good morning, everyone. How is everyone?" Like, "Oh, brought bagels." Meanwhile, I'm just deathly hungover and I just need a bagel. Let me bring it in for everyone. Maybe it will distract the fact that I'm actually a mess, right? Walking in here. But I think that's another thing, is that I was a master. I think I mentioned it earlier. I was a master manipulator. I could just go in to any situation. And that was the other thing. I never was comfortable with myself. So me going into work the next day, this all in it. And that's how it was too, is that I think what made me really avoid admitting that I had a problem with alcohol is that living in New York, you see this on the streets every single day. What society's version of an alcoholic or an addict is someone on the corner, homeless, with a brown paper bag and a can and drinking out of a brown paper.
Well, that's what you think. And I mean, that's what I grew up thinking an alcoholic was too. That's why it was so hard for me to admit that I was one, because I'm not on the street homeless drinking out of a brown paper bag, right?
I'm just blacking out in my apartment, not on the street. And that was it. And I was like, I can't be an alcoholic. Like, I have a job. I haven't lost my job. I did lose my marriage, but okay, everyone kind of does. Like, it wasn't, but I was so close to just kind of losing it all, where I was probably this close from an intervention from my family, which I was like, I don't want an intervention. I'm going to get ahead of this intervention. But everything looked great on paper. But that's because, and I think that's why I love speaking out about sobriety, is because I refuse to admit that I had a problem because of what most people think alcoholics look like are. And I didn't want that stigma. I didn't want people's perception to change about me. I didn't want to be viewed as anything less than. And not even to say the people on the street are less than. Now that I know, and I know that I am an alcoholic and had an addiction, my heart breaks for these people. I don't see them as someone I need to cross the sidewalk from anymore. I see them as some people that are truly sick and cannot get help for themselves. And that's been me. If I kept on the path I was on, who knows? I could have been out there, right? Families will only tolerate so much. Loved ones will only tolerate so much.
Yeah.
It takes everything from you.
It's so true. It just takes and takes and takes and takes and takes. I know. And the crazy thing, you're in your 20s, late 20s, and that's just the culture, right? Everyone's drinking, like, to the excess. I mean, mostly everyone. I mean, everyone, when I was, in my 20s and early 30s, everyone everywhere was always drinking. It's just, at least I'm not that bad. And that's like the worst thing, right? When you compare yourself to each other. Well, at least I'm not doing that. At least I'm not that bad. At least I'm not, do it. But you are doing those things. You're just not admitting that you're doing those things. And to compare yourself with other people, that's a recipe for disaster, because you're just going to be in denial of the whole thing. You're never going to work on it. You're never going to address it, which is like admitting that you have a problem with it is probably the most important first step in the sober journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much that I was so oblivious to and so naive, in just admitting that I still even hate saying I'm an alcoholic. I don't, and like, to address it. I do own it in the sense, like what I'm doing. I started the sober channel, and how can I hide it? I'm promoting sobriety, the better way to live. Yeah, it's hard to admit, and it's that stigma is ugly, and it needs to go away, because there's so many people out there struggling. You were talking about, once the delivery alcohol, like Drizzly and Uber Eats or whatever, once they started delivering booze, I can't even imagine how bad this has gotten with the invention of that. Granted, you can just go out and buy it wherever, but I mean, having it like shipped to you, your home where you live, that's not a good sign. That's not
Oh
great.
my gosh. It's horrible because, right, I could go out and get it, but I don't even know why I didn't, because I guess it was just convenient. I think me actually physically going out and walking into a liquor store at a certain point towards the end of my drinking, that seemed problematic to me. Me going out, and then, so if I could just get it delivered, I don't know, it just seemed okay. Somehow
No one has to see you go out and get it and stuff, right?
I'm just like, it could be anything that I'm getting delivered, but then you hear the clink, 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 clink coming down the hallway of my apartment building, and I'm like, oh, my delivery must be here. And yeah, and then the worst part about it too is that the amount of orders I placed and don't remember, because I didn't have to go out in the streets blackout drunk, because I could just press a couple buttons on my phone that I probably knew from muscle memory just from doing it so many times, and it would be there. All I had to do was open the door for it.
You mentioned earlier about you hitting rock bottom when it came to, you were at a family function. Can you talk about a little bit about that a little more?
So I wish it was I honestly, I don't even know. So it wasn't even a family function, but I was around my niece and nephew. So I was coming up from New York, going to my sister's in Albany, New York. So it's about like 2.5 hour train ride. And I'll just preface it by saying anytime I went to like Penn Station, anytime I traveled, airport, train station, anything, I knew where the bars were. I knew where the liquor stores in Penn Station was, because I spent so many years commuting in and out of it. And I was about 2 weeks sober at this time. And I was like, well, I'm at the train station. Like, what else do I do here? Like, I'm going to go get a glass of wine at the gross dirt, like underground bar. And then I'm going to go to the liquor store that's in the train station, and I'm going to get my 3 tequila nips. That's just what I do. And I did that. And I with the nips, I'm limiting. I'm limiting my intake because it's not a full bottle. This was all how I
Just
it,
justify the
it was
drinking.
like,
I did that too.
once it's out, it's out. Well, unbeknownst to me, the train that I was on, some trains do and some trains don't have cafe cars going from New York to Albany. This train did have a cafe car that had nips on it.
Okay.
So I had already had a glass of wine and 3 tequila nips in me. So all of my inhibitions are out the window. I cannot think for myself. Literally, alcohol is controlling me. I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to the cafe car. 2.5 hour trip. The conductor had to, I don't remember getting to Albany. The conductor had to help me off the train. My younger sister had to pick me up from the train station. So she's 10 years younger than me. So I was mortified.
Mm.
My little baby sister taking care of me, her 32-year-old adult, I was 31 at the time, but 31-year-old adult sister, just gut wrenching. Drops me off at my older sister's house where her 2 kids were. And I don't remember any of it. I just remember waking up the next morning I felt sick, but what I felt was, my God, I cannot do this anymore. I don't know how I got home. I was on a train. I could have been arrested for public intoxication, disorderly conduct. I don't know how I was acting. And my 7-year-old nephew and 3-year-old niece witnessed me.
Yeah.
How can I do this? And my mom came to visit too. And she was like, you're not going to be able to come to visit your niece and nephew anymore if you keep this up. And I started looking at rehabs. I was like, maybe I just have to go to rehab, and which I'm not against at all, but I was able to, once I got home, I was able to just throw myself into the sober community and AA meetings and just really it was all or nothing for me. I can't live this way anymore. And that was the moment that I was like, I'm an adult. And it's almost when I know that my drinking's going to end at a certain point. I don't know if you ever felt that way. Like, all right, well, tonight we're going out, but most people are probably going to wrap up drinking by 10. I try to get as much drinking. Let's look at an open bar. Remember, we used to go to open bars, and then the open bar was about to close. You're like, I got to start getting 3 drinks at once, because, that's kind of how I felt on this train. I remember thinking that, well, this is probably going to be the last time I'm ever drinking ever. I'm already started to go to AA. I'm going to my sister's for the weekend. They don't drink. So I'm just going to drink as much as I can, not understanding that drinking will pass you out and make you incapable of standing and speaking and knowing where you are. And it was a huge eye opener for me. And I have not drank since, and I never plan on it, but I do take it one day at a time. I don't get ahead of myself.
We are so similar in so many ways. Did you try to get sober? And then when you were on the train, you said you were going to AA meetings and you were back and forth. So you were like trying it out a little bit. Yeah, I did that too. Did 125 days. And it was the hardest 125 days ever. I mean, I couldn't, I wasn't going to AA, it just didn't work for me. I mean, I'm an advocate for AA. I honestly think for some people it works terrifically,
Yeah.
They get in there and they love it and they find someone that they really click with. And I just wasn't finding that. I was going to multiple meetings, not finding that my tribe.
Yeah.
But so you were trying to get sober, and then this event happened. and then you said, I'm done, right? Okay. So now that you did it, you said, I'm done. Okay. Tell me about that. What was the first thing that you noticed? What was the first thing you noticed about yourself? What did you find?
So when I first decided to get sober, I guess the first thing I actually did was, luckily, and I know a lot of people don't have this, but a lot of people that do struggle with alcohol do have alcoholism somewhere in their family. But I went right to my dad
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I need help because I can't do this anymore. And he had known, he'd actually brought me my first AA meeting back in January. So of course, at the time I was like, this is so stupid. Why is he bringing me here? You don't just bring someone to an AA meeting for the hell of it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't, again, I was so blind to that other people were being impacted or were recognizing my behavior. I just couldn't, I thought I was being so sneaky. And so the first thing that I recognized and just actually what felt different, because I think there are times, right, that you try to get sober. And I had tried a couple times. I had tried really on my own. And it was like you're 125 days. Yeah. White knuckling it is the
Mm.
hardest thing in the world.
It's the stupidest thing you can do. I mean, I don't know what I was trying to do. I was approaching sobriety the same way I was approaching my life and drinking. I just didn't take it serious. And it was so hard to get sober because I was every corner, every instinct, everything. I just wanted it so bad. And I did want to be sober. I mean, I did those days, but God, were they hard. It was almost impossible. I was setting myself up to fail because I had no community. I had no one. I was being sneaky. I was being sneaky about the sobriety thing too. I didn't want anyone really knowing, even though I was proud of myself that I did it, but I was sneaky about it. I didn't showcase it. I didn't tell anyone. I should have told everyone. I should have been like, I have a problem and this is what I'm doing. And look at me, I'm being sober now. And then people would have clapped me on and then I probably would have stayed with it and not drank myself to a liver transplant.
Yeah.
Good God.
But
So
that's the thing is
yeah.
you do get sneaky. And I think what I noticed that was different the last time I got sober from the other times that I tried is that I was actually doing it for me. I
Mm-hmm.
point internally in my mind and everything. Whereas before it was, okay, going to this meeting because my dad wants me to, my mom
Yep.
wants me to. Maybe I'll be able to get back together with my husband if he sees that I get sober. And then finally it was like, I actually don't know if I'll survive. And I don't know how much more support my family is willing to give and offer me because all I have is my family right now. I lost a lot of friends from this,
Mm-hmm.
friends that I thought were friends. And I have leaned so heavily on my family. And I knew if I didn't have their support, I could end up out on the streets of Manhattan, right? It could easily have been me. And I was like, I can't do that to myself. I need to better myself because look at what I'm doing to everyone around me. This is not fair to them. And
Mm-hmm.
I deserve to kind of see what life is like. And I had gone to enough meetings at that point where they say you have a head full of AA and a belly full of booze. And listen, I'm the same way. I don't do the steps. I don't have a sponsor. I really go for the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. I was like, I have a couple of the tools now to understand. And it doesn't feel as good drinking anymore.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, I shouldn't be doing. Whereas
Yeah.
I was able to make justifications and excuses until
Yeah. And I love that you said you did it for yourself because that was something that I just struggled with so much. I was doing it for my wife, my family. I was doing it for, everyone else except myself. I was so insecure. I mean, that's what it boiled down to. I was just so insecure. I didn't like who I was. I felt like a failure. I felt like a letdown in my family. I felt so many things. And then, just compounded, you can just compound it. And then every bad feeling, I just poured booze on top of it. And then it just became, I just wanted to escape living. That's how bad it got for me. Okay, so you've been sober now for a little bit. What are some things that you've noticed? But what are some of the positive things that you noticed? I'm sure there's a lot.
yeah, this is my favorite part.
Yes.
My drunk history, I can find certain aspects amusing now, but some of it gives me horrible anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But so I will be 7 months sober on Monday. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And what the right off the bat, the first thing that I can tell you that I noticed is my anxiety. I lived life thinking I just have anxiety. That's just who I am. That's just what I thought my entire life. Um, and I didn't realize that once I stopped drinking, once I started, I'm very spiritual, so I'll take time to meditate in the morning and at night and just, thank my higher power for getting me to this point of my life. And I wake up in the morning now. The mornings are my least favorite time. I hated waking up. I hated the thought of a day. I was just like you. I did not like myself. I was not comfortable in my own skin.
Mhm.
So fearful of the unknown. And now I wake up and I don't even have a second thought about waking up anymore. I'm just like, oh,
I'm
I'm
up.
awake. It's a day. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I don't get Sunday scaries. I don't get Monday anxiety. I literally I'll get a little bit of anxiety about like life things. I don't know, but it's nothing as debilitating as it used to be. My days, I know there's nothing that Sydney is going to do that's going to be anything worse than if I picked up a drink, and I'm not going to drink today. So I know that my day is already starting off on a way better foot than it used to.
Mhm.
And so that's what I have to say is that just my gratitude, the mental clarity has also been something, and I don't even know how to describe that. I just feel it.
Yeah, it's hard to describe that, isn't it? Because I drank for 10 straight years of just, I didn't know anything else besides drinking. Woke up from the transplant and I've been sober ever since. I feel this is how I described it. When you're little and everything's fun, everything's new, everything's interesting. And that's how I feel again. That's how I feel now. Everything is fun again. Everything's new. The colors are brighter. Food tastes better. The anxiety way down, all that. I hate it. I used to drink because I felt so socially weird without it,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just didn't want to do anything social without having that. I just didn't like who I was. That's what it came down to. I just didn't like who I
It's
was.
that, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately. I don't know why. I'm not really a journaler, but lately I've just been journaling and reflecting, and that's kind of what it came down to for me too. And you said something like you would just say, like I was saying the other day, when I drank, I could talk, not have to think about what I said next because the words would just come out. It was like I could just be this person that I
Mm-hmm.
not be. And I also did not like social settings because of my insecurities. And again, I didn't realize until I started going to therapy really after and actually doing therapy and not just telling my therapist what I
Yep.
want her to know, but
Yes, me too. I did that too.
real
I
therapy.
had like a bunch of therapists I went through just bullshitting them, not telling them anything real. And then eventually one just got it out of me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll actually get what I paid for at this point. And so I didn't realize that I was dealing with such bad insecurities. I didn't know what I was going through. I just thought because I always say alcohol groomed me. It
Mhm.
groomed me to always rely on it, to love it, to put it before everyone else, to when bad things happened, it's okay. You can always come back to me. I'll make you feel better. Temporarily, it will make me feel better, maybe for 10 minutes. And then it's downhill from there. It's an abusive relationship that I want nothing to do with anymore. But I would drink. It made me believe that I was this socially awkward person that had nothing interesting to add to a conversation. That and now I'm learning like going out and talking to people. Oh my God, this is amazing. It's like self-discovery and relearning who I am at the core without
Yeah.
alcohol because I relied on it so much has just been such an amazing experience because I truly can say that I'm able to love myself now where I never was able to before because now I can go sit with people and have a conversation. And I went to a lunch last week and people were having glasses of wine. And I think something that I do realize now where before I didn't want to be around people that drank because when you're early in sobriety, it's hard to remember. You romanticize
Mhm.
it. I'm the holidays are coming.
It's like grieving a friend. It's
Yeah,
like grieving a friend. Yeah, that's how it feels. Even still to this day, I still get those weird cravings. They still pop up. They don't just disappear, right? And I still get those. Just like I miss it. But then I'm like, oh, no, 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 I don't. No, I don't. You're right. The clarity in the conversations are so much more meaningful now, and they're, you remember them. That's a
I
good. That's nice when you just remember things. The next morning.
know stuff about people now.
Yeah. I love that part. I love remembering things and not letting everyone down and showing up for myself. That feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. You mentioned earlier, talking about a higher power. What higher power did you come into?
So I pray to God every single day. I grew up going to church, but I kind of feel like my mom was a single mom and she was just like, struggling and to kind of figure out what to do. So she's like, we're just going to bring him to church. I didn't grow up in like overly religious house, but I started, and this is something I got from AA, and it really could be any higher power, right? Anything above you, anything that I also am very big in with like universe and, everything kind of happening for a reason. I need
Same.
something in this life. So I'll have my universe, my spirit that I talk to. I don't hear them back. I'm not crazy, but I do talk to them. And then I'll get on my knees and I'll pray every morning and night, because whether it be God, whether it be my spirits, whether it just be the moon, the sun, the stars, something got me sober, because
Hmm.
it wasn't this girl. I surrendered and said, I can't do this anymore.
Hmm.
But the amount of times I tried on my own and couldn't do it, there's something bigger at play here
Hmm.
that had their hand on me and guided me through the tough times. Because this time getting sober, it was hard. It sucked, but it felt easier than the last times I tried getting sober, where I was white knuckling it and where I was, I wasn't all in there, but something got me to this point. Somehow, my obsession and compulsion to drink is gone. I can go do things and not drink. And
Hmm.
I got my nails done yesterday and I would bring alcohol in my purse and be going to the bathroom all the time to chug my nips.
Hmm.
Everything required a drink for me. And I can do things and I look forward to doing things and not drink.
It's almost like you get your life back.
Yeah.
You're finally Sydney again. Like do you get sober and you finally have that clarity and you just can live in your own skin and you like who you are and you're showing up for yourself and you're evolving and you're becoming a better person. I mean, that's what life's all about. It's all about getting, just showing up for yourself, getting better every day.
The growth and to see how far you come. And I don't know about you, but did you ever, when you were drinking, or maybe just stopping drinking, but like looking at people and be like, how do they just have one drink, or
Mhm.
take it or leave it? And now I'm like, I get to be that person that doesn't go out and get a drink at dinner. I used to go out to dinner and look at tables and start being like, that's a loser couple. They're not. I
I
mean,
did that too. I did
and
that
I'm
kind
like,
of stuff
now
too.
I'm like, oh
I
my
used
God,
to
I want to
judge. Yeah.
go. I
I
was
was
such
really judgy.
was so mean. And now I'm like, I want to know their story. Why aren't you drinking? Are you just like, you just not like to drink? I'm just like, now I'm more inquisitive. I wonder more about people. Whereas
Hmm.
before I was just judgmental and I left it at that. And I now am just interested in people's lives. And another thing I've realized is I did have to be selfish to get sober, because I really needed to focus that time and energy on myself. But I love helping other people. I love bringing awareness to sobriety,
Hmm.
because of the stigma we talked about earlier. And I just love learning about people and where they've come from. I have a genuine interest in people's stories now, whereas before I think it was just I just felt I had to ask people about themselves.
Yeah, I hated sober people because I knew deep down that I didn't have it in me to do it, and I was jealous, secretly jealous of those kind of people. So, Cindy, what's next in store for you? Like, what are you excited about? Like, that you're sober. I mean, this is an exciting thing. I mean, your story is so similar to mine. Like, what's in store for you next?
You know, I still just going to take it, one day at a time, but I want to help others. I think truly, as I start to go through this, as I start to vocalize and be more open about my sobriety, because like you said, like, I don't like saying I'm an alcoholic.
Mm.
I know I am. I don't get. I'm not one of those people that just loves it. There's some. I don't think people love it, but like, that are really open. I still get a little bit embarrassed.
Hmm.
So I just want to continue bringing more awareness. I would love to, as my platform kind of grows, I would love to start speaking to others, speaking to women, and help them understand that you don't have to live this life anymore. There is a way out, and none of us know there's a way out when we're deep in it. I mean, it really takes seeing other people that kind of look like you and have the similar experiences like you, because it's hard to, there's a fine line. Like, am I an alcoholic? Am I not? You don't even have to be an alcoholic. You don't like your relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, if
You,
it's affecting your life negatively in any aspect, whether it be relationships,
yeah,
job, family, whatever, right? If it's affecting it anyway negatively, get rid of it. Like,
and
you've outgrown it. Just you don't need
it
it
is.
anymore, right?
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what I want to show. I just want to show people that your life can be so much better. You're not missing out on anything. You can still do the same stuff you used to do when you were drinking, but now, like you said, you're going to remember it. You're going
Hmm.
to feel better about it. You get to go to bed at night proud of yourself
Yeah.
and wake up remembering.
Hmm.
And life can still be everything you make it. And it's actually not anything you make it when you're drinking, because you have no control over it. There's so much freedom to being sober.
Yeah. Have you noticed that since you've gone sober that things in your career have gotten better? I mean, have you noticed that anyone at work treats you differently, or it's been really hard to make friends sober? Because that was the hard thing for me. I had a really difficult time finding my community of people,
Yeah.
and having to get away from, not get away, but like treat the relationships that I had with all my friends differently, because I knew that um, that's just not, that's not serving me anymore. That those old relationships, even though I love them to death, it's just it's really difficult to maintain those relationships because they remind you of who you were and not who you
Yeah.
are trying to be.
Honestly, and that was a big thing. Removing myself from work. So my territory is still New York. So I go down there probably once a month or once every 2 weeks still. And a lot of my friends at work were my drinking buddies. They were the ones that I left from my marriage into, the party scene of Manhattan with. And it was really daunting. I had such bad anxiety telling them, oh, I'm not drinking. Cause it's like when you're someone that people can rely on to go to happy hour after work, and then all of a
They
sudden
get
you're,
pissed.
yeah, they're
They
like,
get
what?
pissed.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you're the fun person that's another thing. When you get sober, people, those friendships that you had, like, you're gonna be like, man, you don't drink anymore. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I don't drink anymore.
It's like you weren't seeing what was going on behind closed doors. You got the fun me. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I was left to pick up the pieces of the sick me. Um, so I just, with work, in terms of just like career, I know I'm being a way better employee. I show up when I need to. I'm reliable. I don't push meetings out anymore. I get emails out. I get things done on time, which is great. I feel better about my job, which is, I think, another thing that was adding anxiety to me. I knew I wasn't giving my all.
Mm,
I knew I was
same.
canceling meetings because I was too hungover. I'd rather go out to a happy hour. I was prioritizing Sydney and drinking over work. And now I actually had to tell my boss back in August, and it was something I did not want to do. But in August, we have our national sales meeting in July in July in Las Vegas. And I was like, I can't be going to Las Vegas 4 months sober. I had gone last year, and it was so fun. I actually didn't get out of control. I reeled it in because I knew I was around big, higher up people at work, but I had a great time. I was drinking all the time. I was going out, and I know how prevalent and easy to get alcohol is in Las Vegas.
Like,
And
I mean, it's free. They give it to you
yeah,
when you're at the
yeah,
table.
I didn't even gamble, but I would just sit and just try to pretend so I could get a free drink. And I know there's a lot of people going to Las Vegas that don't know yet that I'm sober and don't drink.
Hmm.
And I was actually at a work event, and I asked for a non-alcoholic beer. And my colleague was like, what? You're not drinking? Are you going to Vegas? Because I'm going to start switching your drinks for real alcohol in Vegas. Who says that?
Yeah,
Someone
that's
that's
a
not
stupid thing to
drinking.
say.
Like, so that to me at the moment, I was like, I have to say something. Like, I cannot go to Las Vegas. I I'm comfortable in my own skin, but I'm going to go to Las Vegas to be sitting in my hotel room for 3 days, and not because I don't feel comfortable. So my boss, I had to call him, and I was like, I just want to tell you I'm in recovery and I'm 4 months sober, and this is really awkward for me, but I don't think I'm going to be able to go to Las Vegas. I was mortified because I didn't want my manager to know, but he was so cool about it. He's like, absolutely. Let me reach out. I'm going to figure out how we can like cancel your reservation. Congratulations. That's great. And I was like,
Isn't that so funny how we build up this idea of how people are going to react to it initially, right? But then eventually what we do come to find out is the more vulnerable that we are about it and the more we dwell on it, like that's not what happens. Like the more open we are as people who have this issue. There's so many of us, like, we're lucky that we're now in the situation that we're in now. There's so many people that you think are going to judge you or you say the wrong thing, but just being open and honest about what's bothering you, because everyone's dealing with something, actually shows a lot of courage and it shows a lot of compassion. I've noticed that doors are opening up left and right because of what I'm doing now. I'm opening, I'm had this podcast. I'm having these conversations with people very similar to me, like you, and it just opens doors and it just puts you in a different light that you think that you're being judged, but you're actually being looked at with admiration, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I think the more people I've told I don't drink, I've gotten high fives. I've gotten awesome. At first, I took it, oh my God, was I really that bad that they're like high fiving me? But then I'm like, no, people are doing it because it's hard for people to imagine themselves doing that. And they know how hard it is in this alcohol obsessed world. And I will tell you one more story about work. And yesterday I was on a call with 5 people, and 3 out of the 5 people, including myself, we're all sober. We got talking about it because some guy brought up an event where they drink a lot. And one girl was like, I'm 5 years sober. And this other guy came off mute. He was like, I've been sober since February. And I was like, I'm sober too. So again, I think it's me in my mind, how obsessed I was about drinking. I just think everyone else is obsessed with drinking too. And everyone's drinking. And I'm the only odd man out, but I'm not, because the majority of my call that I was on yesterday was actually sober, and they were proud of it. Like they were announcing it. And I was like, this is what I love to see, because this is something. I was so happy that girl raised her hand initially, because I was like, I wasn't going to say anything. I'm still newly sober, 7 months, going on 7 months. I'm like, and I still feel awkward. I walk around eggshells at work because it's a professional setting. So I'm like, I don't know how to broach it. So I thought it was so cool that that girl was just like 5 years. And I was like, this is so cool.
That's awesome. That's a great way to end it. It's awesome how you've approached it. I love your story. It's so relatable. There's so many people that are exactly in your position. They just needed to hear your story to kind of give them the courage, give them the confidence to make the decision, say, I'm done. This is not serving me anymore. My life is not getting better because of I'm drinking. It's getting worse, progressively worse for most of us. So, Sydney, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram, dry.spirits. It's just something I started. It's not anything major, but you can just see what I do on a normal day. I mostly cook, but it's all sober. It's all showing you the normal life that you can have without alcohol. And it's so much better than any drinking or hungover Instagram. I can see it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Sydney, for coming on. I really appreciate your story.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing where you go with your page and everything else. I'm really excited for you. And thank you everybody out there for watching, and look forward to another episode soon. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.